Hello again, Ian Stuckey with Mastermind Games here, and back into the wonderful world of Warhammer 40,000 with Captain Sicarius. So without further ado, let the Captain Sicarius jokes begin! Because come on, don't you know you wanna? So, ultramarine blue from Army Painter War Paints. So, Captain Sicarius currently is MIA after a warp storm, but before his disappearance was captain of the 2nd Company of Ultramarines, a swordsman from the Ultramarine territory Talisar, and based on books he's been in that I've read, he's kind of the Imperium's equivalent to Sir Lancelot from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, specifically the version of Sir Lancelot that plows through the wedding party. Okay. So this kid had a couple of variant parts. I've got his plasma pistol here, but there was a hand holding the helmet, as well as an unhelmeted head. But his unhelmeted head looked kind of generic, and quite frankly, his helmet looks much more distinct than many other Space Marine helmets, at least ones I've got anyway, so I kind of wish it was in more of an action pose as opposed to standing in repose pose. And this weapon of his is the Talisarian Tempest Blade, a little knick-knack from his home world. But what drew me to getting Captain Sicarius and Maria's Caligar, which was the last model I painted, was the web series by Ruva Alphabusa, If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device. I find it absolutely hilarious that Caligar and Sicarius in that series argue like some old married couple. And this is another one of the fine cast resin models, so total pain to clean, but a ton of detail. And if you hear anything odd, well, there's a big old windstorm brewing up, so let's see, what do I want to do with this? Okay. I'm not painting him exactly like the pictures I've seen, but I've got to take my own thing with these guys. Kind of the point of the hobby in general, really. So, just fill in here and see anything else I want in blue. No, I don't think so. So I'm going to have to give this a rest. Let it dry out. I think there's one more thing I can do really quick. No, maybe not. Never mind. Get it in a minute. Okay, next I think Leather White 09062. So I've just learned that YouTube's been cutting most of my descriptions where I put the paints I use out, so I'll just have to do a comment with the paint list moving forward. It's irritating, but it is what it is. I'm going to give him a nice white cape. Maybe I didn't. Whatever. I'm not going to worry about it. There seems to be areas where the paint is repelled from the model. I'm wondering if that's areas where I either got the primer too thin or there's some weird chemical reaction going on. I've only ever seen it on this resin here. It's Strange, but what it is. Yeah, I think the only problem I have with this Sicarius model is for such an active individual. I mean, in Blades of Damocles, he, while wearing a jet pack or rocket pack, jump pack, that's what we're looking for, jumped onto a pair of Tau fighters and basically shot them down with his sword, cutting out the cockpit of one, chopping the wings off another. Then I'll go ahead and hit the outer border of the banner. Kind of an awkward angle the way the helmet is and the banner is, but there's nothing I can do about it. So this is another case where doing a partial assembly before painting might be advisable. So just keep an eye out for situations like that. Use your own judgment. Do it to your own taste. I personally prefer not to do a partial assembly if I can avoid it, but every once in a while I do. And I'll get started on the brush for his helmet. Definite Roman iconography in the ultramarines with these brush-shaped plumes. Plumes, oh boy. I am losing my ability to speak English. There was a particular threat made by Calgar in web series called Behemoth that was kind of collaboration somewhat related to the Emperor had text-to-speech device in which Calgar threatened to use Sicarius for a broomstick. Get off my marble throne before I use your head for an expletive broomstick. I try not to swear. It happens every once in a while, though. Okay, that's good on the white. Those odd little dots aside. So now I'm going to take oiled leather 09110 and get his scabbard and his holster for his plasma pistol. The brush I'm using might have to be relegated to dry brushing soon. It's starting to get kind of ragged. And let's see. Probably just this section here of the scabbard. Okay. I think I'll go ahead and let that dry, so come back in a minute. What was that? Okay. 09002 deep red. And where's the purity seals? There's one. Ah, there we go. Hmm. Thought he'd have more than 2, but alright. Switching to a finer brush for Fire Red 09004. It's a bit too much paint, not diluted properly. Can't really get the back of it very well. I'm going to try. This ribbon at the top here. A little bright color up here. It's been a long week. I'm exhausted. Stormy Gray 09088. As you can just barely see a grenade by his wrist here. Go ahead and get started on the plasma pistol as well. Some of these colors I'm going to probably change up later, just for the sake of making it more detailed. And there's nothing wrong with figuring out some of the details as you go along. Yellowed Bone 09143. You know what, I will do this little jewel here. And the red on the, or actually, maybe I'll change that up later. I'm going to try to remember to color that jewel. Calgar had one on his little sword he's probably never going to use that I didn't notice until after I was done. So, and in Sicarius' case, he's a prideful swordsman, so he absolutely would make sure his weapon of choice has all the bells and whistles. banner portion there. And then I'm going to take leaf green 09011. Let's see, where is it? There it is. Look at this laurel pattern, the banner. And we'll just say the capital of the banner has live laurel as well. Get another solidly Roman thing in the Ultramarines iconography there. Okay. Let's see here. Again, so many little details. So many neat little details. I think I'm in good shape, so I'm going to go ahead and let that dry before moving on. Alright. Let's see, where's the one I want? Tarnished Steel 09206. Just a bit of this here and there. I'm going to put it on the pommel of the Talisarian Tempest blade to make it stand out from the gold I'm going to put behind it. In fact, why don't I just go ahead and do the whole hilt silver. It seems neat. In fact, I use so much gold, let's just go ahead and go all the way on the scabbard too. One of those last minute decisions there. And then I want this on this background part of the banner. Excuse me. And I'll go ahead and do it on the border as well, since I put so much gold on all of my Space Marines here. And the chain for this icon, as we'll call it. I think this portion of his pauldron make it stand out from what's going on below it. And how about I might redo that. Okay, actually, yeah. Okay. And where is it? 09050 antique gold. I'm just kind of plugged up. That might be okay. Just being really careful on the plume here. layer without hitting the red and white I just put on underneath. Just tiny dabs. That'll get the job done. It's slower but more precise. Precision is the name of the game here. Going around the back side. So yeah, this is a situation where it might have been better to put the banner itself on dead last after painting, but my particular compulsion to assemble as much as possible before painting kind of, well, did what it did. So again, while I prefer not to do partial assemblies, there are circumstances where I probably should have, so just use your judgment when assembling and painting and all that stuff. Kind of funny though that Sicarius' banner has the skull and crossbones Jolly Roger associated with pirates on it. From what I've read in, I think it was Damocles, Blades of Damocles, Sicarius' home planet of Telsar has a strong seafaring tradition, but doesn't really mention anything about pirates. And then, get this, I'm going to pick out that jewel on his head in another color later. I want to get this little on the side here. The gold as well. I think this part's actually supposed to be a badge on his armor. Again, just an insane amount of detail here. I think this is another badge. And all these are honor markings. Sicarius certainly has a lot of them. Which in the Emperor if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device, which I've mentioned before, seems to provide a sense of frustration to Chapter Master Calgar. And again, in that little series, he and Sicarius argue like some old married couple. Skull here and one skull there. It's gonna get a little tricky here, but I got it. This is a situation where I probably should have done the gold first, but I'm trying to get out each color no more than once as I work as well, so it's more me being stubborn than anything else. Okay, it's got that reasonably well. Just blot out some of the gold there. That'll come out in the shading wash. Now let's just make sure I've got everything I want to get before I move on. Okay, little touch up right here, and I'd say I'm in good shape. So I'm gonna let that dry completely and then start shading. So far, so good. Okay, time to start shading. Black and Steel 09205. And then any lighting effects, including jewels, will be done at the very end. There's the brush I want. About half paint, half water. Okay. Let's see, give my choices. Blood Red 09003. Which might have to be done twice, but let's see what happens. I'm not going to worry about it right this second. Okay. You can only do so many at a time. I think I forgot to do the bottom sorting. Yeah, I did. Little studs there. Okay. I can do at least one more right this minute. So pure black 09037. With solid black, you'll need to use at least 2 to 3 times the amount of water per paint. I can't stress that enough. Otherwise, it'll get too dark and you'll ruin details underneath. Or ruin the detail. Now, hypothetically, you can shade an entire model with just pure black, but aside from the potential of ruining detail, I feel doesn't look quite as nice. Okay, so let's see here. Alright, I'm just going to let that dry before moving on a bit. Alright. Pine Green 09010 next. Not that I need to clog nozzle. Job for a paper clip. There should be plenty. I've only got a little. So, some of you might be asking why I don't use Citadel paints. Well, I used to, but then a few years ago, if some of you recall, Games Workshop reformulated everything and left about a 6-month gap between the time the old stuff had been completely discontinued and the new stuff would be available. So people either stockpiled everything to get their hands on, or, like I did, switched brands. Now, let's go ahead and get his scabbard. Where is the... There we go. 09109 Ruddy Leather. So... And now that some of my Reaper Master Series paints are becoming harder to find or have been discontinued, I'm starting to switch over now to Army Painter. So any of the brands I've mentioned are great. I've heard good things about Vallejo and Privateer Press's, Formula P3, but I haven't tried any of those myself, so I can only assume they're okay since these are pretty consistent in quality all around. Stained Ivory 09142. And Sicarius has but 2 purity seals, and the banner portion of his standard. This bit right here. Careful. Okay, let's see what's next. Well, next I'm going to have to let this dry a bit before I move on. So, oh, wait. Missed one bit of leather on the holster for his plasma pistol. Take care of that real quick. And now we're done. At least till this dries and I can do the next layers. Okay. 09001 red brick. That is not mixed thoroughly enough. Better. And then I think, I think I can go ahead and do the white now. So, linen white 09061. I just realized I forgot to shade the silver on the border of the banner. You know what? I'll go ahead and leave it as is, I think. It'll be alright. Give a sort of different effect. If you hear that wind howling, it's just a really windy day. Which means since I get about a 1/10 of what Wyoming gets. It must be howling up there, and knocking trucks and everything else over. In fact, on a typical day of Wyoming wind, you could probably fly a full-size steel garbage can like a kite. I'm surprised some moron hasn't tried that on YouTube yet. I use that wording because that would not be safe in the least, but that's not going to stop people from trying it. In fact, this TV in the break room at work, some of my coworkers like a show called Fail Army, which is YouTube videos, mostly of people getting hurt, which I despise because it's people getting hurt. It's one thing to have a sort of accident staged in a show, a fictional show for comedic effect. Something else entirely to have an actual accident happen and record it where someone actually ends up getting hurt or possibly killed. I just think that's barbaric, and that's the nice way of putting it. So let that dry, move on in a bit. Alright, I'll take black and steel 09205 and fix my little mistake there. Very carefully, mind you. Okay. Oh great, this cape wasn't completely dry, so I just screwed up. Alright, take some of this excess and just brush it off. Just do that quick patch job. Alright, well that's unfortunate. I guess I have to wait a little longer before moving on, but it happens. Okay, some of that white's still wet, but I can still work on the next one. Ancient Bronze 09049. That is not mixed properly. Try again. Just start with a little skull on the plasma pistol. And let's go ahead and do the gold on the banner first. I still don't know why I keep whispering. It's not necessary. Being very careful on the helmet. Using very little paint. Okay. so good. Okay, it's going to leave the blue. And then, let's see. Yeah, just the blue and the lighting effects now, so back in a minute to finish up. Shade, Ultramarine Shadow 09187. So, while the Reaper Master Series are conveniently numbered, you can generally go a number higher for your highlight and a number lower than your base for your shadow. With other brands, you're just going to have to eyeball it. So for your wash for the shading, you want it darker than your base coat, and for your highlight, you want it a shade lighter. Okay, it seems thin enough. So let's talk about tints, tones, and shades. When you add white to a color, you brighten it, and that is a tint. When you add black to a color, you darken it, and that is a shade. When you add gray to a color, that mutes it out. Doesn't make it quite as distinct, and that is a tone. That terminology, while fairly trivial, is interesting and will help figure out what the heck I'm talking about in some of these videos. So I'm going to be very careful so as not to nick the gold or the white here. This is the last shade, and once this is completely dry, I can prep the eyes and the plasma pistol for the lighting effects. And speaking of glowing eyes on a Space Marine, apparently there's going to be a animated series for Warhammer next year, following a group of blood angels called Angels of Death. I just put the trailer up so I would take a look at it. Apparently I can't remember the name of the creator who was doing a fan film called Hell's Reach has been tapped to work on this. So I think I've seen parts of Hell's Reach, or the parts that he's completed, so that's probably going to be on indefinite hiatus until he's done with this officially sanctioned Blood Angels series. But then this could also mean his own little fan project ends up getting a boost and possibly officially sanctioned by Games Workshop. So something to keep in mind and look forward to. What they showed looks great so far, if a bit dark. Dark as in difficult to see. But, yeah. This is going to get a little tricky in here as I get his legs. I don't want to nick any of the other colors. Okay, I think I'm all right there. Alright. It gets it pretty good. I just need to let that dry for a bit before I get the lighting effects and shines ready for the jewel on his sword, the plasma pistol, and his eyes. Alright, pure white 09039 will start the lighting effects. Treating this as a base coat, keeping the brush moist but not overly wet. Okay, and then I almost forgot the jewel on his Talisarian Tempest blade. Then there's one on this icon here I want to do, and then in his helmet as well. Alright, let's see, that's pretty good. Let that dry, then I can do the lighting effects and then start the highlighting. Alright, starting on the lighting. Where did I put it? There it is. Ruby Red 09101. If the paint will cooperate at any rate. And thin this out more than usual. 2 to 3 parts water per 1 part paint. And absorb some of the paint in the eyes. We want some of that white coming through in the end. A little more on that jewel, on the jewels. That's better. And then for the plasma pistol, sparkling blue 09104. Again, more thin than would normally go. So I want some of the white showing through, getting both the chamber and the barrel here. Okay, that's good. So once that's completely dry, I can highlight, detail, and wrap it all up. Okay, time to start highlighting. Oh, where to begin? Okay. Ultramarine Highlight 09189. And for brush selection, you want a brush that is frayed, damaged, so not your best ones. Concerning myself mostly with the readily visible surfaces, so I'm not too concerned about the knee there. I'll give it a little bit of work. bit of straight paint to touch that up there. Yeah, that's it for the blue. Let's see next. How about the leather? So, burnt orange 09111. Not too much of this. And my bottle's clogged up again, so easy to fix with a paper clip. And it's squared out erratically, which happens sometimes. It's frustrating, but it is what it is. Not much, just a little of that. Cleaning out and drying the brush thoroughly between paints and Creamy Ivory 09144. Not much of this one either. Just a bit on the banner and the purity seals. Get a light dusting of this too. And just lightly dust. That's the technique. You don't want any water in your brush, just that's what I'm looking for, just straight paint and rub it on a paper towel till it looks like there's almost nothing left. Blood Red 09003, which is plugged up as well. And Phoenix Red 09005. That is not mixed properly. Let's try that again. Better. Newer, fresher paints or pot will require more mixing than an older one that's running low. This plume and this ribbon. Cloudy Gray 09089. Okay, what's left here? Okay. New gold 09051. And the wind is still ferocious out here, so that's what that noise you might be hearing is. Nope, that is not the right color. That was the burnt orange. Similar colors together on the palette. It's a easy mistake to make when you're in the middle of this. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'd say that's it for the gold. Now true silver 09207. I only have a couple of Space Marine videos left, and one, maybe two orc videos to do that I'm going to do, but I am getting Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress for Christmas, so after the holiday at some point you have that to look forward to, even if I end up taking a hiatus from Warhammer for a bit while I move on to other games. I'm not going to repeat videos for the most part, but in terms of duplicates, such as what's going to happen with Warhammer 40,000 anyway, I will do better quality videos with my new camera as I get stuff to optimize my squads with. Or I guess maximize is the correct word. Okay, that leaves pale green 09012. Alright, so for example, I got that 500 store model of the Primaris Lieutenant with the Stalker Bolt rifle. While I already have a Lieutenant video, I'll go ahead and do a video for him, since it's going to be higher quality with this new camera. And same thing with the Orc Boys. So I might take a break from 40K and do some other games for a bit before I do my Orcs, but I will finish all my Ultramarines first. And then Ghost White 09063. But I got a few of the blind purchase Space Marine heroes, and I will be doing variant color schemes like Imperial Fist and Salamanders, as well as some uniques coming up. And I will go ahead and do videos for those. And use a little more straight paint where the red nicked the banner there. Oh, just realized I forgot to do the plume with the dry brushing, so with the gold, so I'll take care of that in a second here. It'll be fine. So what was causing this bubbling effect on some of these resin models? Doesn't happen just with the 40K resin. It happened with some Monster Apocalypse models I did as well. Not sure if it's just how the primer interacts with the particular brand of, or how the primer interacts with the resin. I'm not certain. It's an oddity. Okay. Take that gold again real quick. And just quick burnishing to the front of the plume here. Okay. And this is dried enough I can do the detail work now too. So pure black 09037. Let's see, I need my finest tipped brush. It's gonna be you. Well, attempting to write Talisar on the banner, it didn't work out so good. Sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so that's all the details I need to do. Just a bit of wording on the banner and then the little squiggles on the purity seal to give the impression of writing. Now, where is a flathead brush? There we go. And now, using the same black, just go around the edge of the base to cover up all the nicks that were made. And as soon as all this is dry, I can do the basing and wrap it up. Okay. Captain Sicarius is almost ready for duty. Okay, time to start basing. Oh, let's turn this down before I split everybody's skull feedback. Okay, white glue, convenient container. Generous amount of water. And let's see, where's what's on its last legs? And a brush that you're basically going to sacrifice. So use your worst brush for this, or just designate a cheap one because this will wreck it faster. Just mix it up thoroughly and carefully paint around the feet. Now this is a slot base, so I used a little masking tape to plug up the gaps. Putting that over the base first, then plugging the model in. Okay, should do it. Dip into the talus. Rock debris, I use a combination of fine, medium, and coarse. And taking a different brush, gonna brush that away from areas we don't want it. Okay, now it's gotta sit for a bit before I can seal it. But getting there, just about done. Alright, final step. A sprayer brush on adhesive. Eyedropper, glass, because this stuff will bond to plastic instantly. And just carefully drip it onto your basing material to seal it. Clean your eyedropper out thoroughly afterwards. You want to keep this stuff working as long as you can. Uh-oh. And that is it. Captain Sicarius in all his glory. 2 more Space Marine videos, then switching to another game for a bit. Until then, I am Ian Stuckey with Mastermind Games, signing out.